Imagine waking up 10 years from now. You look in the mirror. The hair is different. The face is older. The dreams are still there, but something feels wrong, not because you failed. Not because life was unfair, but because deep down, you know you wasted the most valuable thing you ever had: time. And here's the terrifying part. Most people don't realize they're wasting their lives while it's happening. They realize it when it's already gone. Right now, someone your age is building the future you keep postponing. Someone is learning. Someone is improving. Someone is becoming the person they once dreamed of becoming. And meanwhile, millions of people are scrolling, waiting, overthinking, delaying, living the same day over and over again. If this video makes you uncomfortable, good. Because the truth you're about to hear might save years of your life. And almost nobody is talking about it. There is a silent tragedy happening everywhere. It doesn't make headlines. Nobody notices it. Nobody talks about it at family dinners. But it destroys more dreams than failure ever could. It's called unrealized potential. A person who could have become extraordinary but never did. Not because they lacked intelligence. Not because they lacked talent. Not because they lacked opportunity. But because they kept saying two dangerous words: later, later I'll start. Later I'll learn. Later I'll exercise. Later I'll speak English. Later I'll build confidence. Later I'll chase my dream. Later, later, later. Until one day later becomes never. And that's the story of millions of lives, maybe even yours. Most people think they have a motivation problem. They don't. They have a time illusion problem. Your brain secretly believes you have more time than you actually do. That's why you waste today. Because your mind whispers, there's always tomorrow. But let me ask you something. How many tomorrows have already disappeared? Think about last year. Seriously. Close your eyes for a second. Last January felt recent, didn't it? Yet somehow, an entire year vanished. 12 months, 52 weeks, 365 days, gone. Not stolen, not lost, spent. And the frightening truth is that the next year will disappear just as fast. And the year after that, and the year after that. Time isn't moving slowly. Your life is moving quickly, much quicker than you think. A young man sits on his bed at midnight, phone in hand. He planned to learn a new skill today. He planned to read. He planned to work on his future. But somehow, hours disappeared. One video became 10. One scroll became 100. 1 minute became an entire evening. Now it's late. He feels guilty. But he tells himself, I'll start tomorrow. Tomorrow comes, and the cycle repeats again, and again. And again, maybe you've been there. Maybe you're there right now. The painful part isn't wasting one day. The painful part is becoming the type of person who wastes every day. Because habits don't just create actions, they create identities. Every repeated action is a vote. A vote for who you're becoming. Every time you procrastinate, you're teaching your brain who you are. Every time you avoid discomfort, you're writing a story about yourself. And after enough repetitions, you start believing it. I guess I'm just lazy. I guess I'm not disciplined. I guess success isn't for me. No, that's not who you are. That's who your habits trained you to become. Let me tell you about two friends, both 20 years old, both intelligent, both ambitious, both full of dreams. The first friend waits for motivation. He says he'll start when he feels ready. He spends years preparing, watching videos, making plans, thinking, researching, talking, imagining, but rarely acting. The second friend is different. He starts before he feels ready. His work isn't perfect. His English isn't perfect. His confidence isn't perfect. Nothing is perfect. But he moves every day. Small steps, tiny improvements, a little progress. Again, again, again. 5 years pass. Now the difference looks enormous. One person seems successful. The other feels stuck. People assume talent created the gap. It didn't. Time did. One invested it. The other spent it. That's all. Success often looks dramatic from the outside, but it's usually boring up close. It's daily effort nobody sees. Here's a hard truth. Life doesn't care about your intentions, only your actions. You don't become fit because you plan to exercise. You don't become fluent because you want to speak English. You don't become confident because you dream about confidence. You become what you repeatedly do. The world rewards execution, not intention. Think about it. A person who reads 10 pages a day seems insignificant until 1 year passes. A person who practices speaking for 20 minutes daily seems ordinary until 3 years pass. A person who saves a little money every month seems average until a decade passes. Tiny actions, massive consequences. That's how life works, not in giant dramatic moments, but in invisible daily choices. And that's why wasting time is so dangerous, because time compounds. Just like money, except more powerfully. Lost money can return. Lost time never does. But here's where things become even more uncomfortable. Because the biggest time thief isn't social media, it isn't Netflix, it isn't YouTube, it isn't your phone. The biggest thief is something hiding inside your own mind. Something most people never notice. Something that silently steals years from their lives. And once you see it, you'll never look at yourself the same way again. It's called waiting for the perfect moment. People waste unbelievable amounts of life waiting. Waiting until they feel confident. Waiting until they have enough money. Waiting until they know enough. Waiting until fear disappears. Waiting until conditions become perfect. But perfection is a trap. Because perfect conditions never arrive. The perfect moment is a mirage. You keep moving toward it, and it keeps moving away. Think about learning English. How many people say, "I'll speak when my English becomes perfect"? But how does English become perfect? By speaking the very thing they're avoiding. The same thing happens with confidence. People believe. Confident people act because they're confident. The truth? Confident people became confident because they acted even while afraid, even while uncertain, even while embarrassed. Confidence is not a prerequisite, it's a reward. And most people never receive that reward because they're waiting for it before they begin. Let me tell you something strange about fear. Fear rarely looks like fear. It disguises itself. It wears masks. Sometimes fear looks like overthinking. Sometimes fear looks like perfectionism. Sometimes fear looks like endless preparation. Sometimes fear looks like procrastination. You tell yourself, "I'm just researching. I'm just planning. I'm just waiting for the right time, maybe." Or maybe you're afraid of failing, afraid of looking foolish, afraid of being judged, afraid of discovering what happens if you actually try. Because if you never try, you never have to face the possibility of failure. But there's a hidden cost. You also never experience success. Imagine standing at the edge of a cold swimming pool. You know the water will feel freezing. So you wait. You tell yourself you'll jump in when you're ready. 5 minutes pass. 10 minutes pass. 20 minutes pass. Guess what? The water didn't become warmer. You simply wasted 20 minutes. Life works the same way. Most things become easier after you begin, not before. The first conversation feels scary. The second feels easier. The 10th feels normal. The 100th feels effortless. Action reduces fear. Waiting feeds it. And maybe that's what hurts the most. Not that you've wasted time, but realizing how much of your life has been controlled by fear pretending to be logic. How many opportunities did you miss because you felt unprepared? How many friendships never happened? How many skills were never learned? How many dreams stayed trapped inside your head? Not because they were impossible, but because you kept waiting and the world kept moving without you. That realization can feel painful, but it's also powerful, because if waiting created the problem, action can create the solution. The moment your life changes isn't when circumstances change. It's when identity changes. When you stop saying, "I need motivation," and start saying, "I take action." When you stop saying, "I'll start someday," and start saying, "I start now." When you stop asking, "What if I fail?" and start asking, "What if I never try?" That question changes everything, because failure hurts. But regret lasts longer, much longer, years longer, sometimes forever. Visit a hospital, visit a retirement home. Listen carefully. You'll hear something interesting. People rarely regret working too hard on their dreams. They rarely regret learning, growing, trying, failing, starting over. What they regret is not trying, not speaking up, not taking the chance, not becoming who they could have become. The pain of effort disappears. The pain of regret lingers, sometimes for a lifetime. And most people don't understand this until it's too late. Let's go deeper, because there is another truth about time that most people never realize. Time doesn't feel valuable when you have it. It only becomes valuable when it's gone. That's why a teenager wastes weekends. That's why a 20-year-old wastes years. That's why a 30-year-old says, "I still have time." That's why a 40-year-old wonders where life went. And that's why so many people wake up one day feeling like a stranger in their own story. Not because life happened suddenly, but because small delays quietly became a lifestyle. A week became a month became a year became a decade, and the scary thing? It happened so gradually, they barely noticed. Most people think wasting time means doing nothing. Not true. You can be busy and still waste your life. In fact, many people are experts at looking productive, answering messages, checking notifications, watching educational videos, reading about success, talking about goals, planning the future, thinking about improvement, but never actually improving. Activity is not progress. Movement is not direction. And being busy does not mean you're becoming better. A hamster runs all day, yet goes nowhere. And sadly, many humans do the same thing, always moving, never advancing, always occupied, never transformed. That's why you must ask yourself a difficult question. Not, "Am I busy?" but, "Am I growing?" Those are very different questions. Imagine two versions of yourself. The first version continues exactly as you are. Same habits, same excuses, same fears, same daily routines. Nothing changes. Now imagine meeting that version of yourself 10 years from now. What would they look like? What would they say? Would they thank you? Or would they ask one heartbreaking question? Why didn't you start earlier? Why didn't you read the book? Why didn't you learn the skill? Why didn't you take care of your health? Why didn't you speak up? Why didn't you believe in yourself? Why did you keep waiting? That conversation should terrify you. Because one day it becomes real. Nobody plans to become average. Nobody wakes up saying, "I hope I waste my potential." Nobody dreams of living below their capability. Yet millions do. Not because they're incapable, because they're comfortable. And comfort is dangerous. Comfort feels safe. Comfort feels pleasant. Comfort feels harmless. But comfort has destroyed more potential than hardship ever did. Hardship forces growth. Comfort encourages stagnation. Think about a muscle. What happens if it's never challenged? It weakens. The same thing happens to the mind. The same thing happens to confidence. The same thing happens to ambition. If you never challenge yourself, you slowly become smaller than your potential. And the worst part? It feels normal. Your brain loves comfort. It was designed that way thousands of years ago. Survival mattered. Avoiding risk increased safety. Conserving energy increased survival. But today, the same instincts often hold us back. Your brain wants comfort. Your future wants growth. And growth requires discomfort. Always. There is no shortcut around this. Every meaningful transformation requires temporary discomfort. Learning feels uncomfortable. Speaking English feels uncomfortable. Going to the gym feels uncomfortable. Starting a business feels uncomfortable. Having difficult conversations feels uncomfortable. Being a beginner feels uncomfortable. That's the price. That's the ticket. That's the entrance fee. And yet most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid the very feeling that leads to growth. One day, a person decides they've had enough. Not enough motivation. Not enough inspiration. Not enough information. Enough excuses. That's the moment transformation begins. Because success is not built on motivation. Motivation is unreliable. Some days it's there. Some days it disappears. Discipline is different. Discipline says, "I'll do it anyway." Even when tired, even when bored, even when distracted, even when nobody is watching. That's power. Real power. Not controlling other people. Controlling yourself. Imagine two roads. The first road is easy, smooth, comfortable, familiar. Most people choose it. The second road is harder, steeper, uncertain, lonely. Few people choose it. At first, the easy road feels better, but years later, the destinations are completely different. One road leads to regret. The other leads to growth. And every day, whether you realize it or not, you're choosing between them. Not once, hundreds of times. With every decision, with every habit, with every excuse, with every action. The greatest tragedy isn't failure. Failure teaches. Failure develops character. Failure creates wisdom. The greatest tragedy is potential that never becomes reality. A song never sung, a book never written, a dream never pursued, a voice never heard, a talent never developed, a life never fully lived. Some people die at 80, others stop living at 25 and simply continue breathing. Don't become one of them. Tonight, before you sleep, stand in front of a mirror. Look at yourself honestly. Not the version you show the world, the real version. Then ask, am I becoming the person I want to become? Not someday. Now, am I growing? Am I learning? Am I improving? Am I moving towards something meaningful? Or am I simply passing time? Because your answers matter more than you think. Here's something nobody tells you. The moment you decide to take your life seriously, some people will become uncomfortable. Friends may not understand. Family may question you. People may laugh. People may doubt you. Why? Because your growth reminds them of their own excuses. Your discipline highlights their procrastination. Your ambition exposes their complacency. And not everyone likes that, so don't expect universal support. Sometimes growth is lonely. Sometimes improvement is misunderstood. Sometimes progress feels isolating. But remember this: temporary loneliness is cheaper than lifelong regret. Many people want respect, but they chase it in the wrong places. They want approval, recognition, validation, attention. But real respect begins internally. When you keep promises to yourself, when you do what you said you would do, when your actions match your words, when you become reliable to yourself, that's where confidence comes from. Not compliments, not praise, not external validation. Confidence grows when you prove to yourself that you can trust yourself. And trust is built through action, repeated action, consistent action, honest action. We live in a world designed to steal your attention. Every notification, every advertisement, every endless scroll, every distraction, someone is fighting for your focus. Because attention is valuable. In fact, attention is life. Whatever receives your attention receives your future. Read that again. Whatever receives your attention receives your future. If your attention goes to growth, your future grows. If your attention goes to distraction, your future shrinks. It's that simple and that difficult, because distractions are easy. Growth requires effort. Distractions feel good now. Growth feels good later. Most people choose now. Successful people often choose later. That's the difference. Imagine your future self sitting across from you, not judging, not criticizing, just watching your choices, watching your habits, watching your daily decisions. What would they say? Would they smile with gratitude or stare with disappointment? Would they say, "Thank you for not giving up," or "I wish you had tried harder"? That future person is being created right now, today, this hour, this moment, not someday, now. And that's what makes this so important. Because every day you delay becoming your best self, you're handing your future self the bill. And eventually, they have to pay it. Here's the realization that changes everything. You do not need a new year. You do not need Monday. You do not need perfect conditions. You do not need another motivational video. You need a decision, a real decision, the kind that changes behavior. Because your life doesn't change when you learn something. Your life changes when you act on something. Knowledge without action is entertainment. Knowledge with action becomes transformation. And right now, you know enough to start, enough to improve, enough to take one step. Maybe not 100 steps, but one. And one step is enough, because every extraordinary life was built exactly that way. One action, then another, then another, then another, until years later, people called it success. Take a deep breath. Not because this is the end of the video, because this might be the beginning of a different life. Not a perfect life, not an easy life, a more intentional one. Because now we need to talk about something even deeper. Something that quietly controls almost every decision you make, your relationship with time itself. Most people live as if life is unlimited, not because they actually believe they'll live forever, but because they behave that way. They postpone important conversations, they postpone growth, they postpone happiness, they postpone dreams, they postpone becoming themselves, as if life will patiently wait for them. But life doesn't wait. The clock never pauses. The calendar never feels sorry for you. Time keeps moving, whether you're using it wisely or not. And that's what makes time different from money. If you lose money, you can earn more. If you lose energy, you can recover. If you lose confidence, you can rebuild it. But when a day is gone, it's gone forever. Nobody gets a refund. Nobody gets extra years because they were distracted. Nobody gets bonus time because they were afraid. The clock is fair to everyone, rich or poor, confident or insecure, successful or struggling. Every person receives 24 hours. The difference is what they do with them. Somewhere in the world, there is a cemetery filled with dreams, not physical graves, invisible ones. Businesses that were never started, books that were never written, languages that were never learned, adventures that were never taken, potential that was never realized, not because people couldn't do those things, because they thought they had more time one day. Next month, next year, after things settle down, after life gets easier, after they're ready, and then suddenly life is gone. The opportunity disappears, the energy disappears, the courage disappears, the moment passes, and all that's left is the haunting thought, I could have. Those three words are heavier than most. People realize, I could have learned, I could have grown, I could have tried, I could have become more. Imagine carrying that weight for decades. Imagine knowing you abandoned your own potential. That pain is difficult to describe because it doesn't come from failure. It comes from knowing you never gave yourself a chance. People often ask, what makes successful people different? Is it intelligence sometimes? Talent? Occasionally? Luck? A little. But often the biggest difference is much simpler. They act sooner. While others hesitate, they begin. While others doubt, they experiment. While others wait, they move. That's it. They understand something most people don't. Action creates clarity. Waiting creates confusion. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how uncertainty grows when you delay? The longer you avoid something, the bigger it becomes in your mind. A phone call becomes terrifying. A presentation becomes overwhelming. A goal becomes impossible. Not because reality changed, because imagination took over. The mind is powerful. When directed properly, it creates greatness. When left unchecked, it creates fear. The greatest battle of your life is not against other people. It's not against circumstances. It's not against the economy. It's not against your past. It's against the weaker version of yourself, the version that wants comfort over growth, excuses over responsibility, entertainment over improvement, immediate pleasure over long-term fulfillment. Every morning, that version wakes up with you, and every day, a choice is made. Which version wins? The disciplined version, or the comfortable version? The courageous version or the fearful version? The future-focused version or the distracted version? Life is not decided in a single dramatic moment. It is decided in thousands of small private moments nobody sees. Moments when you choose, moments when nobody is watching, moments when excuses sound reasonable, moments when quitting feels justified. Those moments define everything. Many people are waiting for a breakthrough, a magical moment, a life-changing opportunity, a dramatic transformation. But most transformations don't look dramatic. They look ordinary. A person reads 10 pages today. A person practices English for 20 minutes. A person wakes up 30 minutes earlier. A person goes for a walk instead of scrolling. A person has one difficult conversation. A person keeps one promise to themselves. Nothing extraordinary until repeated. Then everything changes. Never underestimate ordinary days. Your future is built from them, not from rare moments, not from lucky breaks, not from inspirational speeches, from ordinary days used wisely, one after another, after another, after another. And while we're talking about time, let's address another thief: comparison. Millions of people waste years comparing their lives to everyone else, looking at social media, looking at successful people, looking at people who seem ahead, then feeling discouraged. But comparison is a trap. Because you're comparing your behind-the-scenes footage to someone else's highlight reel. You see their victories. You don't see their struggles. You see their success. You don't see their sacrifices. You see the result. You don't see the years. And here's the truth. The only person you need to be better than is the person you were yesterday. That's it. Small improvement, daily improvement, consistent improvement, that wins in the long run. Every time. Right now, I want you to be brutally honest. No pretending, no excuses, no self-deception. What is the one thing you know you should be doing, but keep avoiding? Maybe it's learning English. Maybe it's improving your health. Maybe it's building a skill. Maybe it's fixing a relationship. Maybe it's starting something you've postponed for years. You know what it is. Your mind already whispered the answer. That thing, that uncomfortable thing, that difficult thing, that's probably where your growth is hiding. Growth rarely hides inside comfort. Growth hides behind resistance, behind fear, behind uncertainty, behind effort. The place you're avoiding may be the place that changes your life. Imagine your life as a book. Every day is a page. Every month is a chapter. Every year is a volume. Now imagine reaching the final pages. Looking back, what story do you want to read? A story of excuses, or a story of courage, a story of waiting, or a story of action, a story of fear, or a story of growth? Because whether you realize it or not, you are writing that story right now. Sentence by sentence, habit by habit, choice by choice. No editor is coming. No one else is holding the pen. You are. Here's the hard truth nobody tells you. You're not guaranteed more time. Not next year. Not next month. Not tomorrow. Not even tonight. And that isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up. Because once you understand that time is limited, life becomes more meaningful. Conversations become more meaningful. Learning becomes more meaningful. Relationships become more meaningful. Dreams become more meaningful. Everything becomes more precious. When something is unlimited, it's easy to waste. When something is limited, it becomes valuable, and your time is the most valuable thing you possess. Not your money, not your status, not your possessions, your time, because every achievement, every memory, every relationship, every skill, every success must be purchased with time, and every day you're deciding how to spend it. So stop waiting. Stop negotiating with your potential. Stop telling yourself you'll start later. Stop asking if you're ready. Most people never feel ready. Start anyway, speak anyway, learn anyway, try anyway, move anyway, take the first step, then the next, then the next. Because action creates momentum. Momentum creates confidence. Confidence creates growth. Growth creates a new life. And one day, you'll look back at this version of yourself. The version who hesitated. The version who doubted. The version who waited. And you'll be grateful. Grateful that you finally decided to begin. Years from now, there will be two versions of this moment. One version where you watched this video, felt inspired, and changed nothing. And another version where something clicked, something shifted, something awakened. And you finally decided that your future was too important to keep postponing. Choose carefully, because one choice creates regret. The other creates a life you're proud of. The clock is ticking. It always has been. The question is not whether time is passing. The question is, what are you doing with it? Your future is watching. Your potential is waiting. Your story is being written. And the next page begins now.